Hello, welcome back. I am C, my pronouns are they, them. Thank you for joining me again. This is Baking from Books, our video series where I, a humble reference librarian, attempt to make recipes, dessert or baking recipes inspired by books. If you've enjoyed our previous videos, welcome back. This one's going to be a little bit different because it's definitely not baking. It's a little bit more like the hockey pucks last time where we were freezing something, but it still comes out with a delicious result, and it's based on a wonderful book. This time around, we are honoring The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This one only came out in the last year or so, and you've probably heard a lot of hype about it, and I am here to validate that hype. It was really good. It reminded me a lot of the kinds of books I loved to read as a kid. The books with like a Harry Potter vibe where it's set in our world, or a world a lot like ours, but there's magical creatures roaming around trying to navigate life in cities and towns. So the main character in this book is like a middle-aged man named Linus Baker, and he's a caseworker in the Department for Magical Youth, which is like Child Protective Services type of thing, only in a magical universe. It's his job to visit various orphanages that house magical children and make sure that the orphanages are safe and the children are being well cared for and there's no danger to anyone involved. But unfortunately, the Department for Magical Youth strongly discourages their caseworkers from getting emotionally attached or emotionally involved. So Linus lives a very solitary life. He's not married, he lives alone with his cat, and he listens to old records, and he looks at a picture of a beach that says, don't you wish you were here? And he's just very lonely. And then he gets assigned to visit an orphanage that the department is really worried about. They think the children are really dangerous, they could bring around the end of the world, and it's Linus's job to go out there and visit the orphanage and make sure that everything is safe and they're not going to cause the end of the world. And again, they tell him don't get attached. And he's really scared because these are children that could bring about the end of the world. But then he gets there and they're just kids and they're sweet, and there's this really charming man who runs the orphanage. And it's a very confusing experience for Linus as he starts to think that maybe the way the department does things is wrong and he needs to change his perspective. And it's a really sweet story about acceptance, both of other people and of yourself, because Linus has some issues with himself. And it's about friendship, it's about overcoming prejudice and the way diversity works in the world and how we think about it. And so it's really powerful, but it's also funny and sweet. It's got quirky magic and a little bit of romance thrown in there. So I definitely recommend you try this book, whether or not you try this recipe. So, a note about this recipe. I chose this recipe because in the book there's this really pivotal scene where Linus realizes that the children are being kept in the orphanage away from the town. Like they're on an island and there's a town on the mainland, and they never go there. They're completely isolated. They feel like they could never be accepted there, so they never go into town. And Linus decides that this isn't fair. They should have a normal childhood. They should go on fun outings. So he decides they're going to take the children into town and they're going to get them some ice cream. And a lot of different things happen in the town, but they end up at this ice cream parlor and everybody gets ice cream. And the kids insist that Linus gets some too. Now he's got some weight issues. He thinks he's too round. But there's a little girl that's also round and she's like, you and me need to stick together. So he starts to think about his body image differently. And so they insist that he gets ice cream, and he gets some cherry ice cream, and it tastes like childhood, and it's this moment of pleasure that Linus doesn't get very often. So it's this really sweet scene. So I wanted to make cherry ice cream, and I found this recipe for no churn cherry ice cream. No churn ice cream that you could put any mix-ins into, which worked out well for me, because in my practice batch, I bought these frozen cherries, and they just were very big and chunky, and I didn't think to chop them, and they all settled to the bottom, and they weren't that fun to eat. So I was having issues with them anyway, and then because of the kind of baker and cook that I am, I had storage problems with the frozen cherries I got the second time around. So I had to throw those out, and we're gonna improvise today, because that always works out well for me, and we're gonna make ice cream with Oreos instead. So I think it's gonna work, but we will see, because I have not tried this before. For our recipe today, it's very important that you know what things look like. So I'm going to try and show you what I'm doing more rather than my lovely face. So I have my handy mixer that I brought from home here, And you start out by using a mixer to whip heavy whipping cream. So you take some heavy whipping cream and you need 2 cups of heavy whipping cream. So here's 1. And yes, I just realized this is not how you're supposed to measure liquids. You're supposed to use a glass measuring cup, but I didn't have one of those, so we're doing our best today. Okay. Two cups of heavy whipping cream. And you whip the cream until stiff peaks occur. And be careful not to over whip. So it doesn't tell you how long this should take. It just says that you need to whip it until stiff peaks occur, and when you pull the beaters out, the cream stands at attention. Now, when I did this in the practice batch, it took a long time, which is why I hauled my stand mixer all the way into the library, because whipping it by hand would take approximately 3 years. So we're going to turn it on and let it whip on like a low-ish speed and see how long it takes. Stay tuned. It's been going along for 3 or 4 minutes, and it's still very liquidy. You see what I mean about this taking a long time, though. I'm really struggling to know what speed to use, because it does not specify a speed to whip it at. Time to check it again. It looks like the consistency is starting to change, which is exciting. Still no stiff peaks though, so we continue. Checking it again, because full disclosure, in my practice batch, I walked away from it and came back and it was probably over whipped. It still worked out okay, but it made me decide that this time I'm going to stand here and stare at it and check it a lot. It's looking really close now. Oh yeah, that's almost there. Almost there. Ooh, so close. It's making peaks, but not stiff ones, so we'll keep going. Okay, this is what happened last time. The consistency changes on a dime, and now it's not even making peaks, it's just, so I think this is over whipped. So if anybody knows what it looks like when it's not over whipped, please tell me. I would love to know, because I feel like this isn't right. But it worked out okay last time, so we're just gonna go with it. I'm gonna set this aside. Because then you take a large bowl and you put in 14 ounces of sweetened condensed milk. Helpfully, that's just 1 can of your basic sweetened condensed milk. I've never figured out how to do this tidily and skillfully, so that's just another area where if anybody wants to give me tips on how to do this, I am always ready to learn. All right. Although my sweetened condensed milk is slightly refrigerated because it was just in a bag with the rest of the ingredients, so I don't think this is the consistency it's supposed to have. I am aware of that, but it's just very gloppy and hard to get out. Okay, that's pretty close. I don't want to stand here scraping forever. All right, So 14 ounces of sweetened condensed milk, and then 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract that you whisk into that. Now I don't have a whisk, so I'm going to try whisking it with a fork, because I feel like some recipes say whisking with a fork. I might be making that up. All right, so I've got my vanilla extract. Do 1 teaspoon of that. Okay, that's a little more than a teaspoon, but who's counting? Measure it with your heart, right? All right, and then we're going to whisk that in, which means stir vigorously with fork in my universe. Okay, I'm gonna say that's close enough. Looks pretty well combined. Still gloppy, but slightly less gloppy. And then comes the tricky part. The next step is to gently fold in the whipped cream with a spatula. Have a spatula, but I don't know about you, but this makes me instantly think of the show Schitt's Creek, where they have a long, hilarious discussion on what it means to fold it in. So I'm going to do my best. I did ask someone who knows, and they said you lift from the sides and you fold it over the top very gently, trying to leave as much air in as possible, not just stirring wildly, basically. So we're gonna try. First, I have to get my whipped cream out of the beater, which is my over-whipped cream out of the beater, which is a challenge in itself. So here again is my over-whipped, I don't know what happened there cream. And again, if anybody knows why you can't just use Cool Whip or cream that's already whipped for this, please tell me. I would love to know, because that took a long time. So you scoop this out and get that in there, trying to be gentle with it. How gently can you plop? I don't know. And my spatula is very floppy, which makes it even harder. Welcome to the struggle bus. Okay, once again, we're going to say good enough, because I can't get the rest of that. Is that a good attitude? Maybe not, but we're going to go with it. So you get all your whipped cream in there, and then you start trying to fold it. Oh, what does folded in mean? Trying to leave air in it, but the condensed milk is so heavy, I feel like it's going to get the air out of it anyway. How the heck are you supposed to keep it light if you're mixing it with something heavy? Maybe it's just my condensed milk that's heavy, I don't know. I would not use this spatula another time though, full disclosure, so I think there would be a better tool to do this with too. Okay, I don't want to risk smashing it too much, so we're going to call that good. It's all roughly combined in the same color, although not perfectly. So then, that's pretty much all you do to get it all prepared. And then you add in your mix-ins. So this is the point where you would add the cherries or any other flavors that you want to make. Since I am doing Oreos, I have a couple of additions, and again, I'm improvising. I brought some Hershey's syrup, which might absolutely ruin it, but my problem with the cherry was that other than the cherries themselves, there was nothing to make it cherry flavored. It was just vanilla with cherries in it. So I'm going to add some chocolate syrup in hopes of making more of a cookies and cream feel instead of just vanilla ice cream with Oreos in it. My first job was at Whitey's, so I kind of have high standards for ice cream. All right. I'm here for the aesthetic of that anyway. And then I have some Oreos left over from the hockey pucks. And it's just like one sleeve of them. To use them up, I'm going to put them all in. Is that a great idea? Probably not. And I'm going to crush them in because I learned with the cherries that you don't want things that are whole in there because they'll be too heavy and they'll settle to the bottom. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to take some gloves for food safety purposes. Because again, I would like to share these with my coworkers if I can. All right, gloves for food safety. And then I'm going to just take them, Oreos, and try and crush them in my hands. They are not super crispy anymore, which is actually good for me. I am enjoying how that's looking. I certainly hope it tastes good. This is probably too much Oreo if there is such a thing. So a wiser person would think about proportions of, make sure your mix-ins are proportional to your actual ice cream mixture, but not me. Okay, so we've got our mix-ins in there. And now we're going to stir it up to get it all combined, or roughly combined. Because again, we're still trying to keep air in it as much as we can, because it is supposed to be whipped cream, not flat cream. Okay, to me that looks decently combined. It's got kind of a swirl going to it now as I splatter everything everywhere. I promise my coworkers who might be watching, I am going to clean up after myself. Okay, so this is the other part of the recipe that I think they could have been clearer on, because once it's all set to go, you transfer the mixture into an insulated tub or paper containers and then freeze it, which is fine, except what is an insulated tub? What kind of paper containers are you talking about? Where did you get them? Nowhere in this recipe did they link to that or show what they meant. It's just the words, no explanations. So I went looking, couldn't really find any paper containers or insulated tubs. So what I bought is your run-of-the-mill paper coffee cup, because coffee cups are insulated to try and keep the temperature in, and I feel like these cups would make a nice like one serving option. And the bonus is then you can put a nice little lid on it and look like you have a grown-up cappuccino, but you actually have a cup full of ice cream. So I enjoy the optics of that. Now, for lack of a better idea, I'm going to get the mixture into these cups by using a soup ladle. That worked okay last time, so we're going to see how it goes. Glop, 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 glop. As always, if anyone has any suggestions for how to do this smoother, easier, more professionally, I would love to hear it. Because as I said, in my practice batch, the cherries all settled to the bottom, so you kind of had to eat all the way down into the cup to get your mix-ins, which is not ideal. So there's one cup. I'm not going to fill it all the way, just because I don't think you want it all the way up to the top. It's kind of a lot of ice cream otherwise, too. So if you're trying to do one serving, You don't want to overdo it. I mean, maybe you do. We are American after all. Okay, that's probably about the same. And then you repeat until all of the mixture is in cups. Luckily, I have a nice big sleeve of them, so however many I need, it'll be enough. But last time it was only like 5 or 6 cups of ice cream. So that's the other nice thing. It doesn't make so much that it's overwhelming to try and finish it. Again, like that would be a hardship, but still. If, like my practice batch, it doesn't come out well, at least you don't have a huge commitment of, well, now I have to eat this. Number 3. Looks like it'll be 4, maybe 5. Although do factor in how much I was like, well, I can't get any more out, so I'm done now. Maybe if you did it correctly, it would be more. And really scraped all the containers carefully. Okay, good. That's going to work out, because I think once I get the rest of that in there, it'll be the same level as the others. Shouldn't do that on the table. Okay, there we go. And we're going to top up this one, which is a little bit lower. All right, and that is all she wrote. So the next step is just to, I'm going to put my little lids on there. I don't know whether they need to be covered or not. The recipe was also not specific about that. So, but again, I like the look of 4 little coffee cups that are secretly Oreo ice cream. And that's it. The only thing left is to take your paper containers and put them in the freezer and freeze them for 4 to 6 hours. Hopefully, I will have a result to show you what it's like at the end. But if I don't, try it for yourself and see how it comes out. As always, we do want to see your results. So even if I do manage to add the final results / taste test to this, please do share your results. I would love to know how this comes out for you, what you thought, and any like recipe suggestions for the future. I am planning to try and do some more videos, so we definitely want to hear from you.